Hi guys, we are going to talk about the under construction module review assignment. But before we get started, I want you to go up here to the top of your Google Doc, click on the blue share button in the upper right-hand corner, and let's make sure that our share settings are set to services.live. Now, if they are set to anything other than service.live, click on the change button, click this little drop down, and you can select services.live there and click done. And this will ensure that your teachers can grade your assignments. That's very important. Now, we're ready to talk about our module review assignment. So, number one asks, what was one difficulty African Americans faced between the 1940s and 1960s? How did at least one of the writers in this module address these issues? So, this is a two-part question. The first part is very specific. It asks you to describe just one difficulty that African Americans faced between the 1940s and 1960s. That is a really important time frame there, the 1940s and 1960s. The second part of this question asks, how did at least one of the writers in this module address these issues? So there are several options that you have to choose from here. You really just need to make sure that it's one writer from the module who wrote about this issue. Now, number two is kind of similar to number one. It asks, what was one difficulty second generation Americans faced in America between the 1940s and 1960s? How did at least one of the writers in this module address these issues? So, like I said, really similar to number one, but this time, instead of talking about African Americans and the issues that they faced, we're talking about second generation Americans and the issues that they faced during the 1940s and 1960s. And then the second part of this question is the exact same. You need to describe at least one author or writer from this module who addressed this issue that you identified in the first part of number two. Question number three asks, one thing that many postmodern writers have written about is the changes to society in the latter part of the 20th century and the first 15 years of the 21st century. Identify two or three of these changes in American society. So again, time frame is really important here. We want to focus on what's happening during the last part of the 1900s and the first part of the 2000s, right? Two or three of these issues or these changes that are happening during the last part of the 1900s and into the first part of the 2000s. And then last question, number four, how did two of the postmodern writers in this module represent these changes in American society? So really base your answer here off of what you've identified in number three, who were some of the more modern day writers from the module who talked about these issues that were happening in more modern day American society.